Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Okay, so this is actually a video that I have thought about doing over here on this channel for quite some time. And in a video that I did over on my Peter Monn channel the other day, I just kind of started talking about it. I really had no intention that day of talking about it whatsoever, but I did, and I got this really positive response, and so many people shared their stories with me, and so many people sent me DMs and emails and commented on my video and thanked me for sharing my story with this. And so I thought, you know what, I want to do more of a dedicated video talking about this situation, and also talking about therapy and seeking therapy for this and things like that, and kind of what's going on with me about it. I talked about it for a while in that video, but because the response was so positive in that video, I thought, you know what, I'm going to come out and I'm going to do like a dedicated video talking about it over here. For maybe those people that don't watch that channel, or to talk about it a little bit more in length. And what I'm going to talk about is my having OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And I mentioned it in my video the other day because I was talking about, if you keep up with my other channel, that I came out and I talked about the fact that I have, for the last, I would say, 4.5, 5 years, I have been stalked and harassed kind of behind the scenes. I've been very silent about it, and I just recently came out and started talking about it. I am pursuing it legally, and there are things that I'm doing behind the scenes, but because it started getting worse and worse and worse the last couple months, my OCD started coming out more and more and more. And my OCD is a control mechanism to kind of eradicate fear. And so, and I'll get into that in just a second, but so it's come out more and more and more. And in talking to my sponsor, you know, it's always interesting because, you know, people will always comment on my videos, like the Peter Monn haters, and they'll say, you always talk about your sponsor, but a sponsor's not a therapist, and she can't fix all your problems. I'm very fully aware of that. My sponsor is very fully aware of that. All of my sponsors have been very fully aware of that. That sponsors in 12-step programs are not marriage counselors, they are not counselors, they're not best friends, okay? They're not there to fix all your problems, okay? They're there as a guide through the 12 steps. And one of the things that she has told me is that I needed, you know, to get outside help for several different issues. And so when this started happening more recently, because back in the day, one of the things that she had said was, in going to therapy, was that if she was going to go, she was going to get her money's worth. And so she was going to really tell what was going on with her because she really wanted to work through those issues. So when I started going to marriage counseling with my husband several years ago, and then we also went to individual counseling, which is what we do now as well with a different therapist, I was like, I'm going to really get my money's worth. Like, if I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to talk about stuff that's difficult. Well, I hadn't really been talking about what was going on as far as the OCD recently, right? And so I was telling her about it and whatever, and she said, you know, like, you need outside help about this. You need to talk to somebody that's a specialist about this. And in talking to my therapist, I mean, that was one of the reasons why we picked him originally, because this is one of his areas of specialty, is OCD and OCPD, okay? So OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. And I had it all pulled up. Hold on a second, like the definitions of all these kinds of things. Let me pull it up again. OCD, so that you guys, for those of you that don't know, is excessive thoughts, obsessions that lead to repetitive behaviors or compulsions. Obsessive compulsive disorder is characterized by unreasonable thoughts and fears that lead to compulsive behaviors, okay? Then there's also OCPD, okay? And OCPD, let me see if that has, obsessive compulsive personality disorder is a mental health condition that causes an extensive preoccupation with perfectionism, organization, and control. These behaviors and thought patterns interfere with completing tasks and maintaining relationships. And one of the things, if you go on to read, it will tell you, and what my therapist has told me, is that one of the differentiating factors between OCD and OCPD, other than the rituals, is that people with OCD have a lot of awareness, okay? That they're tapping on things 4 times, like my number is 4. It used to be 3. When I was in therapy before, and I mean, out of the blue, one day it just changed. One day it was 3, and then it was 4. I have no idea. I asked my previous therapist, none of them have any idea why my number changed. Before, it was a different number, and it had changed. I mean, it's changed through the years, my number. It's bizarre. And it's also in multiples. Like, somebody commented, it was so interesting reading all the comments, because there were so many things that, like, I had never seen before. And then there were, like, that people talked about, and then there were so many things that I related to, and the comments were so helpful to me, right? Like, somebody talked about how their ritual numbers are like, I'm just making this up because I don't remember, but the ritual numbers are like 3, 6, 9, and 12. What's interesting about that is that my ritual numbers, like when I do things, are not just 4, okay? I sometimes then extend them to 4, 8, 12, and 16, but they're in multiples of 4s, right? So like sometimes like I have to tap things 8 times or 16 times and things like that, right? And it just kind of depends. And I make up rituals as I go. And I know that this sounds crazy to a lot of people. Trust me, it feels crazy inside, okay? It feels completely unmanageable, and it feels crazy, and I really, at times, like, I just feel like I'm losing my mind. The thing is that I've had this from a very young age, and I believe that a lot of alcoholics and addicts have this, because it's a control mechanism to deal with fear, you know? I've had this from a very young age. I can remember being a little kid and literally having to have my stuffed animals be lined up in a certain way, or tucked under my bed in a certain way, or have books lined up a certain way on my bookshelves and things like that. I can remember that as a kid. I can remember getting older and having to vacuum the carpet in my apartment and have the lines match up and have them be a certain way. I can remember, and this was like the very first time that it ever really hit me, that I had any kind of acknowledgement over it. I would come into my apartment, we had a flight of stairs, and I would like go every 3rd step. And like the second time that I did it, like I was like up the second, you know, I slipped and I fell, and I sat there for a second and I just started crying, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you are so trying to manage and control all these areas of your life, right? And it's all out of fear that if you don't do these, for me it is, for me at least, right? It's that if I don't do these things, then I'm going to get a call from my doctor that people are trying to get my medical records, or my vet's going to call and say, hey, we got a weird call from somebody today, or I'm going to, you know, whatever. These intrusive things that have happened, which a lot of them I have not shared, that I'm keeping private. And my attorney has told me that I need to keep a lot of it private, because some of these people are hiding in plain sight and have not gone away yet. And so, and I just want to say this for anybody out there that feels like, you know, there's a difference between being stalked and being harassed, and then online harassment and cyberbullying and things like that. Be very careful, you guys. Okay, I'm just going to say, be very, very careful. There's a difference between sharing an opinion, and if you look up the definition of online harassment online, it will tell you that the definition is continued overuse of social media to cause and anger somebody, or to cause them harm or abuse, okay? And there's a lot of people out there that are doing that. So I think that's interesting, and I am taking note of that. So I just want that to be noted. But no, those are not necessarily the people that I am you know, pursuing legally behind the scenes. The people that I'm pursuing legally behind the scenes are people that have been extremely intrusive in my life, okay? And things I haven't even shared. But it's come out more recently, the OCD and the rituals, because more of the fear of what's coming next, what's going to happen next has happened, right? And so that has happened, and so, you know, my sponsor said you need to start being honest with your therapist about this. Now, I have to tell you, I have not been officially diagnosed all of my life. It has just been, you know, not too long ago that I was officially diagnosed with OCD. I'm not medically managed for it. A lot of people are. I'm doing a cognitive behavioral therapy on it, and the way that we're working on it, I'm working on it with my therapist, is that first, we're starting to take all the rituals, and he's having me write them down when they come up so that I'm fully aware of what they are, so the awareness of the ritual, and then taking one at a time and trying to push through it and not do it, and not do the ritual. So like not tapping on it. Like if I walk inside, I have to walk inside a certain way or step on certain slates and things like that. I know it sounds crazy, you guys. I'm fully aware of that, right? It feels crazy when I'm doing it. Like as I'm doing it, like if I have to like take a sip of coffee and I have to sip it 4 times, I'm thinking to myself, Peter, you're nuts. Like, this is crazy. You know that sipping this 4 times is not going to stop something from happening. But at the same time, there's something in my head that says, but you don't know. Maybe it will. You don't know that, right? So don't take that chance. Sip it 4 times. That's why I do it, okay? So my therapist is first having me work through each of these rituals. And we're going from the smallest to the biggest ones. Because I have some pretty big rituals, you know? That, like, at this point, if you ask me, I would say I'm not willing to give those things up. Like, no, they're like, because they're defense mechanisms for me. They're coping strategies, right? And it's very scary for me to one day wake up and not have those things in my life anymore. I would be so full of fear, I think, that I don't know what to do. And I will say, at times in my life, you know, the OCD has come out more. My mother's death, things like that. I mean, it's come up a lot. So, this is just one way of me working on it, is to push through each of the rituals and starting with the smallest and going higher than that. The second thing that he told me that I have to do is that I have to approach the fear and look at the fear and move through the fear. Each of the things I'm fearful of. So we're going through and we're talking about each of the things that I'm fearful of, okay, when it comes to these situations where it arises. And like I said, this might be something that I deal with for the rest of my life. And so when it comes in, because there have been times in my life where I haven't had it at all. And then there's been times like right now where it feels very, very unmanageable. And it's literally every minute of my day. So, you know, there might be times that it goes away for a while and then something might happen and it might come up again. Okay? But I can't continue to live this way. And I took some notes. So I want to make sure that I'm following my notes so I get to all the points I want to say. One of the reasons why I'm coming over here to talk about it is that the comments in the video and the DMs and the emails that I got were so helpful to me. It made me, and I knew that there were a lot of people out there that had it, but it made me feel so not all alone that I wanted to do, just for at least maybe one or two people out there that have this or sitting at home, to normalize it for them. To normalize that there are people out there that are living this way. And yes, I feel crazy when I do it. Like, I feel crazy, okay? Which is why I'm working on it, because it's a complete distraction and obstacle to my life. I also want to normalize getting therapy or medication for these things. Listen, there's no shame in that, you know? I am such a believer in therapy. There is no shame in therapy whatsoever. And if you have to be medicated for mental health issues, there's no shame for that whatsoever, you know, at all. So I wanted to say that. So anyway, I also want to talk about this before I get into the rest of this. You know, recently I was just diagnosed with some of these things and just started talking about some of these things. You know, OCD was not too long ago that I was officially diagnosed with that. Currently working on, in addition to all of this, I had been working on this before, and I think this won't surprise anybody, but a diagnosis of adult ADHD. I have been diagnosed with PTSD as a result, mostly because of the accident. And more recently, before all this, the OCD work came out, and I talked about this on a vlog, I had brought to my therapist this idea of binge eating disorder because I had heard somebody talk about it, and I was like, oh, this is interesting, I have a lot of these traits, and so we started looking at that. But right now, we're really, really looking at the PTSD and the OCD because he believes that those kind of go in conjunction with each other. The ADHD is something that I have been able to kind of, to some degree, I know it seems manic for other people when I'm blah, 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 whatever, but for me, I've been able to kind of, to some degree, and no, I'm not medicated for it, obviously. I've learned to kind of use it as an asset to some degree in my life, other than, you know, driving people crazy because I'm incessantly talking and I'm very, very fast and all over the place, and I get distracted, you know, and things like that. And I can remember my mom, she got this book when I was like in high school or whatever, or junior high, and the book was called Driven to Distraction, and it was about ADD and ADHD. And I can remember her reading this book, and she was like, this is so like you. And I picked it up like years later, and I was like reading it, and I was like, oh my god, this is so me. But that's something I can work on later. Right now, and I mean, like, and I am not somebody, listen, okay, I am not somebody that's big on self-diagnoses. I'm just not at all, okay? Which is why I am working with a therapist on these things. And I'll say to my therapist, what do you think about this? And if he says, no, I don't think, you know, you meet the criteria for this or whatever, then we move on to the next thing. So these are the things I'm currently working on. But the OCD is the thing that I'm mostly working on right now because, like I said, all of these things are obstacles and distractions to my life, and I want to be the happiest I can possibly be. I want to live the healthiest I possibly can be, and I can't do that with having all of these things. And I don't really know, like, how to get into, I mean, you guys, okay, so let me just tell you some of my rituals, okay? I reset my alarms on my phone 4 times each, okay? I set a clock alarm, I set it and tap it 4 times, 4 times, 4 times, 4 times. I have to shut every door 4 times. I'm just putting this into perspective so you guys know how crazy this is. This is at the height, okay? Now, like last night, because I'm working on this stuff, I just pushed through it. I just pushed through it, okay? We have slates in our downstairs floor, in our kitchen, and our hallway. I have to step on each slate and then move my feet in like this 4 times. Okay, I mean, this is crazy, you guys. I don't even know where I come up with these rules and rituals, okay? I have to have my cursor on my computer on a very certain spot of this tree that is my screensaver, and I have to go there 4 times or I can't shut my computer. I, have to underline things 4 times. Sometimes in videos, I have to say things 4 times. I'm kind of surprised that more people haven't caught on in videos, because I do it a lot in videos, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of things that I've been trying recently to push through it, but there's a lot of things that I will say like 4 times in a video. And like, thank you. That would be an example of something that I would do. And I'm just trying to be transparent because, like I said, I'm trying to work through these things. And me being honest and me sharing these things is me trying to work through it. I mean, there's all kinds of things, from how the dishwasher needs to be loaded, from how the bed needs to be made, from how I do laundry, from how the bathroom is set up, for how I have things next to the bed, for how I have things outside here, how they're set up, things like that. I mean, you guys, it is constant, okay? For how I have to fold things in 4s. I have to fold all my t-shirts in 4s, okay? And no, it's not every single day. There's some days that I can move right through it and I don't have any issues at all, that I have a lot of peace and serenity. So for those of you out there now for years that have heard me say, peace and serenity is not a luxury for me, this is why peace and serenity is not a luxury for me. Because on those days that I can walk, like last night, that I could walk right through the slates and not have to step on certain slates, and that I didn't care how the dishwasher was loaded, and I didn't have to fold my t-shirt in a certain way, the peace and serenity fill my body. And I don't feel crazy, And I don't feel like they're obstacles. And I don't feel afraid. And I'm working on that. I'm trying so hard to push through these things and work diligently. And my therapist is somebody that is specifically trained in working on OCD and OCPD. And so I'm really, really working hard on these things because I want to become healthier. I want to become better. I don't want to sit there and live in this forever. You guys, I just told you a few of them. I mean, it's everything from walking to my mailbox and having to, the old saying, step on a crack, break your mother's back. I mean, you guys, it's constant. It's things like that, okay? Can't step on certain cracks, have to step in the way certain lines are. And it's constant. Like, I make up new rituals all the time. I don't even know where these rules come from. And if you have OCD, you'll know what I'm talking about, right? Like, you constantly come up with new rules all the time. I mean, I could be like, let's say I have not had cereal in 2 weeks, right? And all of a sudden, I'm eating a bowl of cereal. And in my head, it says, you have to pour cereal in the bowl 4 times, milk 4 times, tap the bowl 4 times with your milk, tap the bowl 4 times with your spoon before you can eat it, or something will happen. I haven't had a bowl of cereal in 2 to 3 weeks, but I'm going to come up with all those rituals and those rules in my head on the spot. That's how nuts it is, okay? And I'm sorry if people are offended out there by me saying that it feels like it's nuts to me or I feel like I'm crazy. I don't mean anything offensive by those words. I'm just telling you how I feel, okay? I'm just sharing my experience of how I feel, and that it is extremely distracting to me. I know that those are not great words to use and things like that, but those are the words I use when I'm sharing that with my sponsor or my therapist or my husband or my friends, And I'm so thankful that I am surrounded by people that are so kind about it, and a lot of them catch up on it. Tanya is probably the one that catches most of them. She didn't for a long time, okay, here's a good example of something that happened that Tanya really caught on to, and she was like, this needs to stop because I'm worried about this, okay? So what would happen was, like when she would, we would be going home from a meeting and she would stop at a gas station or whatever, I would pick up trash leading to the door, because there's always a trash can by the door. So I would pick up trash, and I'm telling you, I don't care what it was, okay? I don't care if it was an old cigarette butt. I don't care if it was a wrapper. I don't care, like a candy bar wrapper. I don't care if it was a Coke can. I don't care if it was, the end of the stick of a lollipop. I would pick 4 things up and throw them in the trash. And Tanya was like, you're going to get sick, okay? You are picking up other people's trash. You are going to end up getting sick from this. You have got, because you're doing it and then you're touching your face. You're not using hand sanitizer and whatever. And that had never really even occurred to me. And I don't even know where that started, that I had to pick up the trash. It came from this whole idea of having to clean things up. A lot of these rituals that I have to do with cleaning, making sure things are clean and things like that, which I think a lot of people with OCD relate to. And I have to tell you that after Tanya said that to me, it didn't stop right away. she had to say it to me several times. And then one night I was just like, okay, Tanya, I'm going to stop doing it. I'm not going to do it anymore. And I stopped doing it, and it was really, really hard. Like, I mean, it was literally, it took me everything inside of me to walk from her car to the door of the gas station and walk inside and not look. Sometimes I just don't look down, I just look up straight up at the sky, you know? It makes me feel crazy. I feel like I'm losing it inside. So we've been working on this diligently, and I'm starting to be able to move through some of these rituals. I've already gotten rid of some of the rituals, some of the minor rituals, and I'm so grateful for that. I've already started addressing some of the fears. He's told me very specific things he wants me to do, and I've done those things, and I'm starting to work on it. And day by day, I'm feeling, I wouldn't say 80% better. I wouldn't say 20% better. I wouldn't even say 10% better. I'd say day by day, I feel maybe a fifth of a percent better. But that's a lot, you know? For me, that's hope. That's hope that one day things might be 80% better. You know, it's step by step. It's one day at a time. And I'm so thankful that I have recovery to help me guide me through this journey of working on these other things as well. So for anybody out there that relates to this story, you can get help. There is help out there for you, okay? You do not have to continue to suffer with these things alone. Anyway, that feels better. That feels better having talked about this in a dedicated video and getting it all fully out there and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.